Right, thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to the LFC transfer room. We're just taking a moment after that stressful encounter against Sheffield United. We have just won, though, 2-0. Liverpool, I'm not going to say thrash Sheffield, not going to say we're particularly good against Sheffield, but we got the result. We ground it out and got a fantastic result. And I'm joined today by Dan and Aaron just to go over the match, talk about individual players, the moments of the game. And if you are new around here, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you've got anything you want to ask us, feel free in the comments. Give us your thoughts on the match, because it was, for all intents and purposes, a very, very stressful game, to say the least. Dan, I'll go to you first. That, we said it before we started, that felt like a midweek cold night in Sheffield game. That was absolutely, it was everything we thought it was going to be and more. I mean, what's your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, definitely. I wish it had gone away. That I hope that you would want it to go in. It's you get 2 early goals and then get a 1 in the second half, and it's all very nice and straightforward against a team who are bottom of the league, who are struggling. But unfortunately, the other cliches come about, which was the new managers come in. They clearly had a bounce, and they played really well. It was a really tough night midweek. You know that obviously 3 games in 1 week is quite uncommon. Jurgen Klopp goes on about this week quite regularly. No one had a great game, to be totally honest with you, especially up front. Just all I can say is thank God it's out the way, because that was a real banana skin. That was an opportunity that could have really hurt us going forward if we didn't get that win. But thankfully, job done.
100%. And banana skin, I think, is the perfect way to sum that up. Sheffield are one of those sides that we saw it against Luton. We expect to win. If we came out from that game, especially after Arsenal got their late winner against Luton, and we got anything less than a win, I think it would have been detrimental to the season. Aaron, your thoughts on the match? I mean, were you as uncomfortable as me and Dan were, clearly, or was you a bit more confident that we'd get the result today?
Yeah, like, it would have been nice, obviously, to get that second goal earlier, but I think Dan said before we come on here, there was never really a risk of, I think, conceding. They had a couple of half chances, but I think if, we needed to, there was another gear to go to, especially kind of at the back. Like, I don't think Van Dijk and Konate really had to, Konate had one stupid challenge with the yellow card. They got in behind once or twice, but there was never a really worrisome moment other than that early on when Keller made the save. So, yeah, I think everything was kind of set up there for us to, drop points tonight. New manager, bad conditions after having such a exhausting game the weekend, this to come around so quickly. Yeah. So they're the games you just need to get through with the 3 points and just kind of move on to the weekend, because we've a lot of games coming up.
Oh, definitely. I think they said that we've got 9 games in 26 days or something ridiculous like that. And in a way, it's our fault for being in every competition. We're too good. Obviously, we just keep playing games because of it, so we can't do anything about that. And you mentioned there that there was, we got the result. We'll start off, we'll just sort of go chronologically. Nothing really going on, quite a sort of end-to-end kind of game, one-sided kind of game. And then Joe Gomez, and Aaron, I'll keep it with you. That moment where the ball gets away from him and we have to rely on Kelleher to make that incredible save. I mean, my heart was in my mouth, I won't lie. Do you think Joe Gomez had a particularly good game, and can you understand why he was brought in for this one over Tsimikas, perhaps?
I don't know if I understand why it was specifically tonight, but it's just, I think, with the amount of games, we're going to have to rotate where we can, and there's nobody else really we can play left back, so it's going to be Joe Gomez. But I don't think he had a horrible game. It was a bit shaky early on in that one particular moment. Makes it look a lot worse. But other than that, I don't think he doesn't offer much going forward. We know that, but I think he was fine at the back. It was kind of a 5 out of 10 performance from Joe Gomez. Which, look, there's a reason he's not first choice for Liverpool, and games like that are why. But he's there to be a rotation option, and he's good cover across the back 4. You can play in the multiple positions, so we're going to need him over the next few weeks. So, yeah, gonna have to get used to it.
I mean, and I completely agree. And Carter, Hello to you, by the way. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well after that shot in mouth game. We'll come to you in a moment. I just want to pass this question to Dan. I mean, what's your thoughts on Joe Gomez today? We're breaking down player by player. What the position on the pitch that looked the strongest was the back four, the defence, because of how much defending he actually had to do. But was Gomez for you week one today, or did he just sort of not do anything spectacular as compared to the others?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to be critical of a player playing out of position. You know, McAllister's had this thrown at him all season where he's like, oh, he's not this DM, he's not that. I thought he's been doing fine. There's no point I've ever thought he's had a really bad game. And today would be the same I would give for Joe Gomez. He's been asked to come in and play at left back. For the rest of the season, he's always played at right back. It was the decision that needs to be made because Tsimikas wasn't going to be able to play every game this week, you know, from Sunday through till next Saturday. It's very unlikely he would have played all 3 games. So yeah, he came out, he had that shaky moment and it could have hurt us. And thankfully it didn't. That's all you can say. He made the recovery run, he got back. Fortunately, the decision when the striker McAtee made was one which was nice for the keeper to make, which is great. I'm pleased. I hopefully, maybe before the game started, I kind of hope that perhaps we may have potentially just played as a back three and just allowed, Trent to play as right centre back when we were in possession and Gomez to remain on the right back. And so basically just move forward and backwards from, attack and defence when we moved so that Gomez could have played at least on his preferred side for the game. And I know that would have meant Van Dijk would have been potentially moved out further to the left-hand side. But to be honest with you, there wasn't really too much coming down that side of the pitch anyway. They did target the Trent's position, which is the kind of default setting for any team who attacks us. So we were looking, oh my God, Villa's just scored. Sorry. It's just flashed up, 1-0 Villa.
He's taking it.
We'll take it. Yeah, no, I have to say, it wasn't a spectacular performance, but, to give him the mitigation that he requires, which is he just doesn't get as much game time. And he's come in, he's done a job. It hasn't cost us tonight. And we move forward. It's as simple as you can say with that, really.
I'd rather him have started this match than Crystal Palace, where he'd be going up against like Elise and I think Eze and Edouard and all that. So of the 2 games, I think it made a bit more sense for him to start today than it would have been against Palace. So, it is what it is. Carter, I mean, how are you doing? Can I just get your quick thoughts on that match? How did you think it went? And were you as nervous as we all were, clearly?
I was nervous because it's just one of those games where obviously Nunez has the chance, Salah's chance saved, and you're just thinking, oh, is it going to be not our day where we're only one and they sort of nick one? Because there was I can't remember, was it maybe for McAtee at the end? There was sort of the ball over the top. And you can imagine maybe if we're 1-0, that probably goes in, if looking at our luck. So I was quite happy at the end that Darwin with his master tackle and the finish, I just think, it was an enjoyable game after that.
I mean, Aaron, we're touching on player for player. We've mentioned Joe Gomez, but I think we need to talk about who I think was man of the match and the player who I think a lot of people think is man of the match. We have different opinions. I want to get your thoughts on the man of the match that everyone else seems to be saying, Van Dijk. I mean, that was a captain's performance out there today. Just how good was Van Dijk today against Sheffield United?
Yeah, I think we're really getting back to that Van Dijk before the injury stage, where I don't think the drop-off was anywhere near as bad as it was being made out, in the media and stuff. I think, Van Dijk makes one mistake and it's just scrutinised more than any other defender. But we know that by now. We know how good he is from watching him every week. But he really has kind of started to get to that peak level again, where it just looks like nothing's going to go past him. And we're kind of, I don't want to say immune to it, but quite used to it at this stage because of just how much we've seen it. But it really is special how good a defender he is. I think in years to come we're going to really realise that. And I think I don't want to say it's saving us, but it's just so nice to have there where you have a quick striker running, at Van Dijk, maybe 2v2, 1v2, and you're just kind of confident that he's going to make the right decision. You know what I mean? He gives them that space before he makes the challenge. There was one in the first half, I can't remember who it was on, where he gives them a good 5-6 yards to drive and take a shot, but he wanted them to do that because we know how quick he can get across. But I thought him and Konate were both fantastic. Like, Konate, I think we need to remember how young he is. He hasn't played a lot of football, but athletically and physically, we can see how good he is. And I think long term, he is hopefully injuries, preventing. He should be the main centre back for us in years to come. So I think that's the partnership we all want to see more of. Hopefully we probably will now with Matip being out, but hopefully Konate can stay fit and we can really see those two play a good run of games together.
I think the fact that obviously the question was about Van Dijk and you've naturally gone to Konate just shows how this is just the standard from Van Dijk. Like, there's nothing really to discuss. It's just, it's Van Dijk. He does what he usually does. And there's a lot of people saying, Konate was rusty. Konate is extreme abilities, but he lacks calmness. And I think today it definitely was a case of he was caught out positionally at times and he relied on Van Dijk to really come in and cover him. I mean, Dan, obviously because Van Dijk set the standard so high, Konate today, he played really well. He was solid defensively. Just as I say, got caught out of position at times. Is it because he's next to someone as good as Van Dijk that it makes Konate just look a bit not average, but do you know what I mean? He just doesn't look. He can't live up to the standards that Van Dijk set at the moment. Like, for any other team, that would have been an outstanding performance. Just what's your thoughts on him as a player overall?
Yeah, I mean, I love Konate to bits. Like, I've got no agenda against him. I think he's a fantastic centre back. He has had his injury issues. He does have those young traits. I suppose is the right way of doing it without being kind of insulting to him. He's a bit rash with some of his decisions. Sometimes he gets caught out. Sometimes he can be lacking that sort of just that little bit of gamesmanship at times as well. Like drawing a foul. There's the times where he's fighting properly to win the ball, but instead he should be looking to win a foul and just win that foul. Don't try and win the ball, and it can end up going against you. It kind of happened in the first half. He only gave the free kick away for the half. Like that situation that another defender would have probably drawn the foul rather than somehow it turning into the other way around. But anyway, he is brilliant. He was very rusty though. Joel Matip, I can see is why he's kept him out of the team, because one thing I do notice with Van Dijk is that when he plays with Matip, he's not babysitting quite as much. And that isn't being insulting, is that Van Dijk has to do an awful lot of sort of coaching on that pitch with the younger centre-backs. He's always done it with Joe Gomez, and he also does it with Konate. And that's just how it is. When he's only 24, isn't he? So, I mean, he's still a young player in my eyes. So, yeah, rusty, tough night. I think he was targeted, because why wouldn't you? That's how we've all been excused, is that no one really went up man for man with Van Dijk. You just go with the other guy, because he's probably the easier of the two to have a fight with. And to be fair, that's unfortunately where he kind of just suffered a little bit. But tonight, no issues. You know what I mean? It's one little time he kind of missed the ball and stuff, but it's to be expected. And he made the recoveries. He put a tackle in when he needed to. He took a yellow card probably when he needed to. So yeah, I'm happy enough with it, and hopefully you can take those experiences on into Palace for the weekend, because that's the big one.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying there about him being the younger Van Dijk having to babysit, it's very similar to, like, there was Carragher and Hyypiä with the same sort of age, and then when Hyypiä left, there were other centre-backs coming in who just couldn't, it felt like Carragher was having to watch them at times. Good way of describing it, it's Konate's inexperience, but I think the way to look at it is Konate has all the abilities to be a top quality defender. He'll grow out of that naivety of positioning and getting himself caught out at times and rashly sliding in. So he'll get out of it. That's just something that's going to come with age. Now, this is an interesting point. LFC TV said we were fragmented today. Carter, would you agree with that? That we did look a bit broken up, scattered at times during that match?
I think I could agree with that. I think not having sort of a left footer on the left didn't really help with the balance of the side. And I do think, as much as some people might think Nunez does miss chances, how many more chances did he get than Gakpo in the middle within 20 minutes? Like, as good as Gakpo is, and you might say, I would agree, if they were one-on-one, I'd pick Gakpo probably 100 times out of 100. But Nunez is the one who's going to get in positions to score. Like, I think Gakpo is really good, but I think sometimes we do just miss having Nunez. And I just think if we maybe... Also, you got to remember, even if it's Tsimikas, Robertson is a big physical upgrade on top of Tsimikas. And I think obviously the midfield, there was a bit of change. McAllister's come out, so it was like a new sort of shape midfield as well. So I could definitely understand that. I don't think we were completely as smooth as we have been in some games, but I also think it's not good. But I think sometimes the team does look and go, it's Sheffield. You don't need to go crazy. Like, you can just ease yourself in a bit. You don't need to be at it straight away. First 5 minutes, you can ease into those sort of games.
Sorry, Luke. Yeah, talking about fragmented, I think that is actually a good way of describing it, to be honest with you, because within that first half, I actually found myself asking the question as to where our midfielders were. It's I kind of, other than McAllister getting fouled, I kind of didn't really notice anything up until he took that shot late on in that first half, which caused to save out the keeper. Szoboszlai is unfortunately on a poor run of form. I know he got the goal today, but he's nowhere near as influential as he was to begin with when he first came in. Like, he got caught in possession as well, and didn't make that lung busting runs that we were kind of used to earlier on in the game. Like, he's still sprinting at 90 odd minutes. He doesn't seem to have that same level of energy, and I do put that down to the fact he's now played more minutes for Liverpool than he did all last season in the whole of last season. He's playing a lot more minutes of football here than he ever has done before. He is really due a rest, to be honest, but I just don't think we're capable of giving him one at the moment. I know Elliott is a very, very good player, but when he started, he just hasn't quite lived up to that level, and I think that was quite telling in the substitutions as well, that he didn't come on and play midfield. He was actually played further up the pitch to replace the Salah. But yeah, Carter's hit the nail on the head, though. Gakpo, for me, was really, unfortunately, almost anonymous. I didn't notice really anything he did before. And I think he's fantastic. I think he's a great footballer. I really, really do. But in the 70-odd, 80-odd minutes he was on the pitch, 70-odd minutes, I just questioned, what is he doing? Where is he? Like, where's the shot? Where's the goal threat? It was just...
Did you notice, like, I had moments in the match where I was looking at it and, like, Gakpo was playing right back, and then Gomez was centre back, and Trent was like attacking midfield, and Salah was, and I was like, it felt at times like everyone was just chopping and changing, and there was no sort of system to it. It was just everyone was running where they wanted. I know, like, the passing showed in that first half that no one knew where anyone was or was meant to be. And I mean, Aaron, I think Dan's absolutely right there. And does it feel a bit like we're just trying? It sounds really naive and really daft, but does it just feel like we're trying too much and we're trying to be too clever with the way we're playing the game at the moment?
I think it's more down to necessity as well with the personnel that we have, and with Robertson being out, that like the system was kind of very, I don't want to say rigid, but kind of set in stone up until this season. But we're playing with a completely new midfield. The back four is changing a lot. Like, a lot has changed in this team in a very short amount of time. So I think there's certain players that, they haven't got a consistent run of minutes to kind of bed into the system. And, just those little instinctive things, like, like Trent, when he makes a run, then there are him and Salah kind of have that interchange, that they know what each other are doing. And it was surprising actually see Nunez and Salah have done that quite well this year, or like how Trent used to do it, Mane, how that crossfield ball, like, it just used to happen. Little things like that we haven't really developed into this system. But I think there's enough quality in the team that we're getting dug out in moments when we need to, and the team is good enough to beat most other teams in the league, probably everybody in the league, just on pure quality alone. So I think just with the Gakpo issue, I think Gakpo's a great player to have when you're playing well. I think in a game like tonight, where you kind of need something to come from nothing, essentially, is where you want Nunez. So I think it's unfortunate that the rotation came at this time. Obviously, we didn't know that's how the game was going to pan out going in. But I think if Klopp could go back, and start that game, he would probably do that the other way around, just with Gakpo kind of coming on later on. But yeah, he didn't have a horrendous game. He just was quite anonymous, which is, poor. The same with Diaz today. I think just in general, it was just flat is probably the only word I can use to describe. Nobody was terrible, but we got the 3 points, so there's no point over criticizing any of those performances.
Yeah, but what frustrates me about Diaz was in the first 5 minutes, I just wanted him to take his man on, and he just didn't. He just seemed to keep like hesitating to just to drive at that back, and just to go at him. And it was just he got into the game and he did it a little bit more as the game went on. But there was a few opportunities where it was there to be had. It's to just get down that byline and get a ball across. And it was just really, really frustrating. He kind of fell into those old habits of where he'd run, but there wouldn't really be anything kind of coming from that side, getting that ball across. And again, it's, I mean, what's that? Salah as a passenger, more harmful than beneficial. But maybe not so much, but all of them, to be honest with you, our front line were really flat. They were very, very, very flat. And it's unfortunate that's 2 games without any goals from our front men. And it's a little bit concerning, especially with Palace coming up the weekend. Hopefully that doesn't come free on a bounce, but we need to start seeing our front lads getting back amongst the goals again.
Now we're going to move on to the player who I think was man of the match, and there might be people who disagree with me. And Aaron, I'll keep this for you. Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, I personally think that was one of his better performances. The way he dictated the play with his passing, I thought defensively he was really solid. He did get caught out once or twice, but there was other players to cover for him. But in terms of dictating the play with his passing, obviously got the assist. What was your thoughts on his performance? Because I've not heard a lot of people actually discussing Trent tonight, or even in the comments or on the punditry. What was your thoughts on Trent's display against Sheffield?
Yeah, see, I think the performance on Sunday probably did harm him a little bit in the sense of like he's after coming off to probably one of the most outlandish 2 goals you're going to score in a game, to where tonight it was a neat and tidy. Everything he did was right. Like you said, he dictated the game, which is something that we haven't really had in the last couple of games. Like it's all been a bit, all over the place, and a lot of our players thrive in that. But tonight it was just a controlled performance. He didn't do anything, spectacular, but he didn't need to. He put the good delivery in for the corner, for the goal. That's all you can ask from Trent, really. And defensively, I can't remember. I think he got nutmegged once, but if I can't physically remember any kind of big battles he had, that's probably a good thing. So that's what we want.
This is a perfect question actually for you, Carter. Now, some might say Trent is leading our club right now. Obviously, Van Dijk played extremely well and has been all season, best centre-back in the world, arguably. But would you say Trent has stepped up, given this vice-captaincy role that he's received this season?
I definitely would. And even just saying it maybe the game wasn't as impressive because he didn't score 2 unbelievable goals. But if you think another day, if Nunez is on side, he's got a hat-trick of assists because of the Salah chance. And so I do think he just pushes us up the pitch so well. He also I think in sort of central areas, he finds it a lot easier to defend. And maybe instead of going up against, especially maybe someone like Palace, I'd rather him maybe going up against one of the central midfielders rather than one of the wingers. And I think it does suit him well. And I just think sometimes I do just think it is a bit of an attitude thing. Sometimes just tracking back and switching off because he knows he's that good. But I think now he's vice captain and hopefully maybe one day captain, he knows that he has to sort of set the standard. And he's seen guys like Milner, and he's obviously was shouted at quite a few times by Henderson back in the day. And I do think he now sort of sees that he's got to, if he sets the standard, the others will follow. Because he kind of, although Salah has been scoring a lot of goals and stuff, I think Trent generally offensively has probably been the best player. Like he's involved in all stages of play. Like he drags us up. He doesn't really, I wouldn't really say there's been many games where he's gone missing. Like, whereas sometimes Salah, like today, he does just get a bit isolated being out on the wing. And I do think Trent is just central to everything now, every game. It is almost very like Pirlo-esque, you'd have to say.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. I was, during the match, I was thinking of players who I've seen over the years, passing-wise, Beckham, Pirlo, Scholes, like all these fantastic passes of the ball. I mean, Trent might be up there with the best passes I've ever seen. And Dan, I just want to get there's a player who's getting mentioned in the comments. I will get to him, I swear. But Trent, just what was your thoughts on his performance today, just before we discuss the actual goal, the first goal itself? How do you think he fared against Sheffield?
Yeah, Trent's wonderful, isn't he? I mean, he just really is. And I've said it before, the captaincy can sometimes it can be a boost or it can be a weight around your neck. And what happened is for him, It's
Maguire at Man United, for an example.
Exactly. It can be a weight that bears too heavy, and leadership isn't something which every player is capable of doing. And what Trent has really done is grown into a man. You know, he's 25 years old now, one of the most experienced players in our team, which is crazy to say. And what he's done is you see him out there on the pitch, the way he speaks with the referee, the way that he corresponds as well with the other players on that pitch. He is a leader. And him and Van Dijk it's a fantastic match of two sort of characters. You have the big imposing centre back of Virgil van Dijk, who's someone who kind of just has that presence. You know, he is, one of the best players to have played the game in the Premier League at the very least. And then of course you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's learned from some of the best, as with Aaron rightly says. I still remember those COVID games of listening to Jordan Henderson screaming and shouting at him for 90 minutes because that's all you could hear. And that was his style. But with Trent, it doesn't need to be. I think it's the way he moves the ball. It's the way that he's presents in moments. Is like what he wants a player to do. The arm will go up, and that's important. And something else is to say he's leading the team. I just think it's just in moments. Sometimes you have to let a player who is in that perfect vein just to go on with it and say, well, let's take advantage of them, just getting the goals, just getting the assists. And then it might fade away, and then somebody else will step in and they'll take over from that point, which I think will be likely what will happen. But yeah, Trent was wonderful. But again, like with Van Dijk, maybe we don't mention it so much because we're so used to it. The only time he ever gets dug out or gets mentioned is when there's a mistake somewhere. Oh my God, let's get a 7-part documentary on him getting nutmegged. Because that's all it ever is. It's got to find a problem with the guy because he is so good.
And just before we move on to the next bit, I think I've just seen breaking news. Joel Matip suffered a ruptured ACL, apparently is the injury that's being touted around with him. So that's what, 7 months out, 6-7 months.
That's it. That's his last game.
Looking like it's needed. That's it now, possibly for. We're in December now. No, not a chance. Which is a shame. I would like to see them do like what they did with Oxlade-Chamberlain, where because he had that year-long injury, they gave him the year-long extension. But I think that's it now. That can be a topic for a different video. We're just focusing on Sheffield today, but really hope he's well. Hope everything recovers perfectly for him. Right, so we'll keep him with Trent. Cracking assist for the goal. Honestly, the absolute cheek of it to do that to them and make them all look like bombs was fantastic, because that was top. It was a great assist, really good corner for them. Van Dijk with not even with a header, with an absolutely superb half volley, would you say? I mean, we'll put Aaron, I'll put it to you. Terrific goal by Van Dijk. Trent's superb assist, as we said. We had to score from one of those corners. I think we had at least 15. It was coming, but are you a bit? Give me your thoughts on the goal, and are you a bit disappointed seeing how we were on set pieces today?
Yeah, I think you could see that Sheffield had a kind of a strategy for those set pieces where they were just going to try and bully our players, and they had tried it with Van Dijk on a couple of corners before that, dragging out of him. Then it was one where I think he travelled 3 or 4 yards holding the shirt, and it was a bit. And I was kind of like, that you could easily give away a penalty there, but the one that that finally did go in, I think Robinson kind of runs across him, and Van Dijk just kind of says "fuck this" and gives him a little, not a push, but just a kind of, what do you think you're doing? And then he has a free, run at the ball. But yeah, I think what they were trying was working. Other than that's the one player you probably don't want to try bully in the box because it's Virgil van Dijk. But yeah, so Villa, that full time is it?
Yeah, 1-0.
Villa have won, so we are 4 points clear of Manchester City. Have that. But yeah, sorry, I was listening to you. Just a lot went on in that short space. But no, I agree. I mean, Van Dijk, not only was he defensively superb today, he really stepped up during that goal. And, I think there was one straight afterwards that goes straight over the bar. He had a good few chances actually in the box. He was having a few, He was causing them nightmares, and there was. I suppose we'll kind of go back to Van Dijk slightly, and this is for anyone. Robinson, with those long throws into the box, into our box, was causing nightmares for us. Van Dijk really showed defensive nous there to get rid of the ball. I mean, Carter. Obviously, we've discussed Van Dijk, we've discussed it defensively, but this, I mentioned before the stream, this felt like a very typical midweek scrappy fixture, and Sheffield today really showed physicality. What did you expect Sheffield to play like that now under Chris Wilder, or did you think that this was going to be something where they'd sit back, we'd have to break them down? Did they surprise us by the way they were playing?
I think, I wouldn't say it's like a new manager bounce, but I think normally if you think when the manager comes in, I think all the players are sort of giving it 100%, sort of put themselves about. So there were sort of a few nippy challenges at the start. If you think of like what happened to McAllister and bits and pieces. But honestly, I was more shocked kind of at maybe the lack of height in the Sheffield team. Because although they sort of caused us some problems with the throw-ins, I did sort of look and go, we should get a goal or two on corners here. Because Van Dijk just looks so much bigger than everyone else. We have Konate, you have Gakpo. You could just imagine if we signed not saying we need to sign one, but if you sign like Paulinho, you could have Nunez, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Konate, Van Dijk, and you've got like 5 players 6'3" and above, and Szoboszlai who's 6 foot, Trent who's whatever. So I do look back now and think we can ride these games a bit easier, defending those sort of set pieces, because before we'd always have trouble against like West Ham when they'd fill the box. But I think we are now in a much sort of stronger position to sort of ride these games out. I just think if we had a proper team, it probably would have been a 4 or 5. But for the team we put out, sort of lack of maybe chemistry, I thought we did quite well and we sort of rode the game out quite nicely.
The lack of chemistry is always going to happen when you play like 3 games a week. You're never going to have the same starting lineup. Now, there's one player who I think we've all spoke about plenty this season. He's the one who everyone's talking about at the moment. Endo look quality. Endomania. Give Endo a chance. Endo has good fitness. Dan, I mean, Endo today, how do you think he did? Because I think this was the perfect game to play him, just a physical scrap. Doesn't need to be superb on the ball, but how do you think he did against Sheffield?
Yeah, I never got into this camp of, like Endo isn't good enough sort of nonsense, which a lot of people got really carried away with. And I think a lot of it was just quite childish because they didn't get their choice of CDM. Like, we want this player or they want that player, whoever it was that they were going for. And he was completely written off to begin with. But his first game when he played against Bournemouth earlier on in the season, one thing I kind of noticed, and I know it was only for like a brief moment in time when he came on as a substitute, and just noticed something he always likes to do, and this is something he does in every game, and I haven't not seen it, is when he gets the ball, he always looks to advance it forwards. He always looks to play an advancing forward pass. Yeah. He tries to be very, very positive, and he's not a Joe Allen. He wants to stick it sideways or backwards 99.9% of the time. He tries to be quite progressive, and that's what he did. He played a really wonderful ball in the first 10, 15 minutes through to Diaz, and I had put in our chat and said, oh, what a ball from Endo. And it really was. It was that kind of pass that if it came from McAllister or Szoboszlai, would have been like, oh, fantastic, well done. He went in there and put that big challenge in as well. He got that tackle in. We got the yellow card for it, but sometimes you just need to be able to do that. You need someone who can just go in there and go, do you know what? I'm going to stick a tackle in, and it just sets the marker. Yeah, exactly. Because as Aaron said before, they were looking to be quite aggressive with us, to be honest with you. There was a few little shoves in the back early on. I think Gakpo got one where it wasn't a foul, but he kind of went to the fourth official like, is that all right? And I know that was their game plan. McAllister obviously got clattered, and then he ended up getting clattered again, obviously into the second half. So, yeah, I was really pleased for him. And it gave us that opportunity to see McAllister play in his David 8 role. Didn't quite work out for us this evening, for the right reason. For the reasons that we expected. Sorry, and something that should be made mention to is as well is that we're the only team who haven't conceded at their gaff. From the top teams, Man City only just won 2-1. They're a tough team at home, Bramhall Lane. Away from home, of course, have been absolutely dreadful. But when they have lost at home, other than the Newcastle absolute drumming of 8-0, they have been able to give teams, especially,
Well,
your
Luton.
City. Yeah, exactly. They're capable of giving big teams, maybe not every single time, but they're always capable of giving us a game. And to be fair, a 2-0 win there is probably par for the course. So, yeah, Endo, fantastic. Really, really put his name out there to be able to say, do you know something? I understand what you want me to do. I understand where I fit in this team. And something that should be kind of, I suppose, really given to him is just kind of where he's come from. He's come from a Stuttgart team who are constantly fighting relegation. He's taken a gigantic step from the teams he's played from before to come and play for a team who's won the Champions League 6 times and who are currently, in a title race. And he said, you know something, I'm good enough to be here and I'm going to prove it. So, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, Endo, Sam. Keep doing what you're doing, my mate.
Aaron, I'd have to agree with Dan. I think Endo did get a lot of stick because of the fact that it wasn't the player we wanted. But, in your opinion, do we need these players who, for lack of a better word, they're a bastard? They'll just get into a tackle, they'll get stuck in and set the tempo and the tone for the opposition and for us. Endo's not meant to be this superb CDM, but what do you think his role is? Do you think he's a starter for us, or do you think he is this rotation, bring on in the later minutes just to grind the game out kind of physical player?
Yeah, I think I said this in one of the previous streams where I don't think he's going to be, a starter for every game, but he's going to play a lot of football for us due to the nature of, the balance in the midfield we have. He's probably going to end up playing 20 Premier League games probably by the end of the season. So he's going to be an important, member of the squad without kind of maybe being first name on the team sheet, but that's exactly what he was. That's the intention of what he was bought. It wasn't obviously planned going in. It was a bit of a panic because of the whole Fabinho thing being sold, but he settled in brilliantly, considering, like Dan said, he came from a Stuttgart team that it's quite a poor side, fighting relegation and then not great Bundesliga at the moment, to now playing for one of, if not the biggest club in England. So, I think he was harshly judged there for a while without doing very much wrong, to be honest. He would, the odd stupid foul here and there, but like you said, we need that in there. McAllister is, good a job as he's done in the defensive midfield role. He's not going to go and he doesn't make that tackle that Endo gets booked for. Do you know what I mean? He would, he tried to you might get done there trying to shepherd out a player or whatever, but yeah, he's exactly what, he is needed in that role for us, and he's going to be an important player for us, especially if it gets, March, April, and it's going to be, a tough run in, and we're still right up there for the title, which I think we will be. He's going to be crucial. And for what, 10 million that we bought him for, we can't expect anymore. Anybody that's disappointed, I think you're off your head, to be honest.
Would you start him against Palace?
Yeah, especially, well, depends on this. I think with McAllister, you don't take the risk playing on a Saturday lunchtime. Start him against Palace, he'll throw one in on Eze early, and he won't want to come near him again.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, and that's his job. That Lucas Leiva was not the best player, but he was committed to a tackle, and like I said, it sets the tempo. And some of the best defensive-minded players have been, again, for lack of a better word, bastards. You need someone like that in the team. And you touched on someone, McAllister. I mean, Carter. McAllister got battered tonight. I mean, how did you feel the game went for him? Did you think players were targeting him maybe at times during that match?
I think when you sort of look at the three midfielders, I think he is sort of, obviously Szoboszlai is a bit further up and doesn't always get as involved in deep play. So I think they probably did look at him as sort of the midfielder who's going to be playing on the half turn, and he was sort of the one who was going to get stuck, sort of maybe getting away from people, and they'd have to just bring him down. So I do think it was a bit of that, but I think he did all right. I just think we have to remember that even now, you could maybe argue he's being played out of position in a sense, because I saw an interview the other day, and apparently Klopp told him he'd be a right interior, so obviously play on the right side. So it is just now quite interesting to see sort of how he's being used sort of all over the pitch. But I do think, but he's used to that. I think we all probably watched, maybe it was the cup game or the league game, where he sort of absolutely had Casemiro chasing shadows. So I think sometimes against the worst players, they're just going to kick him. But I think he's definitely maybe more of a player for the bigger occasions where it's more technical. you'd maybe have wanted someone like Gravenberch who could have rode those challenges, or even Jones maybe a bit more. But I still think he did all right. He had sort of, not the pot shot, but he had the sort of shot from distance. But I don't think it was too bad. I just don't think it was as good as he can be.
Yeah, and I mean, people ask if he's had the most studs buds the knee first half, ankle stepped on in the second half. He did get really battered that match. And I'm of this belief, and Dan, I want to know your opinion on this, that I feel like if McAllister had been in that number 6 role, arguably we don't come away with the 3 points tonight. Not as a discredit to McAllister and his abilities, but just because of the pure physicality of the game. I think he might have struggled given how much the players were getting on him and really causing him physical pain, quite frankly. How do you think we would have been if he'd have been in that number 6 role?
I mean, one thing I did notice was McAllister did actually bail us out in one situation. That I think it was in the second half, when we got caught out. I think it came straight after when Trent got megged. McAllister was able to get an interception in because he kind of went back into 6 roll into his head.
Yeah.
I believe that kind of strikes a blow. And he was where he needs to be, and I thought, happy days, that's where I wanted him. He really was targeted today, wasn't he? And I was kind of having a look through, seeing if he, was ever worn a Wednesday shirt, or I don't know what it was, but he clearly done something quite personal to Sheffield United because, just Chris Wilder doesn't like him and just said, go and boot him. But yeah, no, he was, and it was unfortunate because we didn't get to see that kind of, well, this is what we bought him for kind of game, if you know what I mean. We bought him to play a bit more further advanced in an 8 position and be playing those cute passes and being able to go through the lines, and it'll just be that silky football that we see for Argentina and we saw for Brighton, last season. And today, unfortunately, was just one of those games where Gravenberch needs to be rotated. He's still only played a fraction of football from what he's kind of used to. He's had a full year out basically last season, so he's not really able to play all the time. Curtis Jones still, I don't feel, is 100%. I think he would be in the team if he was. Klopp loves him to pieces, and he's still not bringing him in straight away. And yeah, so Endo loves a fight. Szoboszlai is obviously a bit of a bigger lad, and he's able to ride his tackle a little bit better than McAllister. And unfortunately, he's the slowest of the ones, and they just look to try and get hold of him whenever he got the ball. And he got it, and he got a boot round. He had a good game. I think that he showed that he is tough for a lad who's not exactly the biggest one on the pitch. He is a tough lad. He can take a kick. He took a few of them, and then just in the end, I think he went, yeah, I'm not having any more of this. I think I maybe need to come off for 55 minutes. He's probably only 5 minutes off getting substituted anyway. So yeah, it was fine. Very, very tough game, to be honest. So I'm not going to take too much from it as a negative and just try and look at as many positives as I can do.
This was one of those games where it was never going to be a technical affair. This was just a scrap, and we knew that going in. Now, I suppose before we touch on the second goal, and Aaron, I'll pass this on to you. We've got to talk about the elephant in the room, that's Mo Salah. Now, we've seen this season games where Salah has not been great, but he gets the goal, or he gets the penalty, or he gets an assist. Tonight just was not his night. I can only think of one moment where he did anything of particular note, and that was when he got the volley that won the save, by the way, from Foderingham. Fantastic save from him. But what was your thoughts on the match tonight? Would this have been a case of taking him off was the right call, or would you have maybe just kept him on and just hoped that maybe things just went his way towards the end?
Yeah, I personally think taking him off was the right decision because, look, he wasn't playing amazing, and we know how he's up there. He could be the best player in the world. He could pop up any moment and just curl one into that far corner with the left foot. But you don't want to be just hoping for that to come if it's not working for him otherwise. And I think we have to think about the fact that now, come January, he's going to be missing for 6 games when he goes to AFCON. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we kind of hope Egypt get bounced out in the group so he's back to us as quick as possible. But he could be gone for quite a while. And seeing Elliott come on playing on that right side, I think Salah will probably come off a couple of times between now and January because we're going to have to play somebody on the right. And I don't think we want to get to the day before he's gone. It's like, right, who the fuck's playing right wing today? And just throwing somebody out there. Somebody's going to have to get some minutes in that position. And whether it's Szoboszlai or Elliott or even Doak, possibly, we don't know yet. But I was glad to see Elliott get out there and get he got about half an hour tonight, which was nice to see. But yeah, look, Salah has always had these games at times. Like, it's nothing new that he goes 2-3 games where he might not score, he might get the odd assist. He's not playing amazing, but it's never lasted more than 2-3 games. So I don't think, obviously, none of us are worried now. If this was a 10-game stretch, I think it's a different conversation. But this has happened, throughout his Liverpool career. He has a couple. It's just due to the standards he set. Having 2 or 3 off games isn't a terrible thing at all. And look, we used to have Mane there who would pop up and score another 2, where we don't really have that at the moment from another forward. But it's not like, I don't think anybody's worried. Yeah, it was fine. Take him off tonight. He obviously didn't seem happy, but he didn't seem too annoyed either. I don't think coming off. I think he knew himself. It just wasn't his night. And then it was nice to see. I was more glad seeing Elliott come on and get some minutes on the right hand side, because we're going to need that come January.
I mean, it's a good thing that he's not happy to go off. He's never, ever happy when he gets subbed off. We've seen him in the past where he's thrown, not stropped, but he gets in a mood because he's coming off and everyone goes, oh, he's going to leave. He doesn't like the club. It's just a typical thing. Why do you think he struggled tonight? Do you think it was Sheffield set out to nullify his attack? Or do you think it was a case of he just wasn't getting the service? Or, I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Why do you think he suffered so much tonight?
I think it was just the type of game it was. I think it was a game where if he was going to do something, it was going to be he picks the ball from 30 yards and dribbles through 3 or 4 and puts it in the corner, rather than, the games where you can see one going in the far corner, it's coming, and then all of a sudden it goes in, you're waiting. It's inevitable, really. But I don't think it was that type of game tonight. Like I said, it's scrappy. The Sheffield United defenders were quite physical. They were tight when we didn't get much space. Whereas we know ourselves, when Salah plays against a better team with defenders that are a bit more expansive, a little bit more space, that's where he kills teams. So, it just wasn't his night tonight. Conditions, he's played a lot of football. It's just, again, it's one of those nights, and that's why we have to have, a squad there, because you can't rely on Salah to, bail you out for 38 games in a Premier League season. He's going to do it more times than not, and he always has, but he's going to have these games, as will the rest of the players. So it's nothing that it shouldn't be over kind of analysed in the sense of, is he starting to fall off his age, as people are going to start to say, because everybody wants to drag him down any chance they get. But he could go to Palace the weekend and score 4, and would any of us really be surprised? So
Carter, I'll pass this one to you. That's 3 games in a row where everyone who scored for us hasn't been a part of the front 3 or the front line. City was Trent. The last game was Trent, Endo, and McAllister. And then today we had Szoboszlai and Van Dijk. Considering our front line is apparently the best in the league, and it's the thing that everyone goes on about when they mention Liverpool and why we could be title contenders and why we could win it, why are they struggling to get goals at the moment? Is there anything behind it, or do you just think it is just a run of form that's affecting us at the moment?
I think sometimes the City game, you have to look at that as a sort of completely alien game. Like that, the game against them is, maybe now you could say Arsenal just because of the amount of defenders they play. You're rarely, even Real Madrid. I this might sound mad. I'd rather play Real Madrid than Man City sometimes. But I think in the other games, I just think, and people could say it's not unlucky, they just haven't put the ball in the back of the net. Like today, if you maybe start Salah and Nunez, maybe if you keep Salah on, there was a lot more space at the end of the game. Like, he sort of came off when they were still quite deep. I think goals will come. If you look at the amount of times we sort of see Nunez get in a position, Salah missed quite an easy chance the other day. Like, I just think sometimes you're going to miss. Like, it is what it is. You look at sort of Haaland's not, apart from sort of penalties, he's really struggled without De Bruyne this year. Like, I just think we're setting up a new sort of system. The midfield's changing all the time. The attack's changing in and out. I don't think Diaz we just sort of lack sort of an outlet, sort of like we had with Mane. I just think sort of the balance isn't there, but I still think no matter what, we're going to score goals. We've got enough sort of individual brilliance. Like, although he hasn't scored that many, I always look at when Elliott comes on, he makes things happen. Szoboszlai can score from anywhere. You saw McAllister the other day. Jones showed he had ability to before. Like, I think we just have enough, but I think as sort of things go on, and hopefully Robertson, who's a big threat for our attack, sort of, you don't see many balls getting whipped to Salah at the back post or to Nunez. I just think once the team sort of settles down, we have a best 11. I think it will just start flying in.
I mean, you mentioned Nunez there, and for the last 10 minutes, I think we need to talk about, no, he could not tuck it in. He didn't miss sitter, but it was a chance he maybe should have scored. But my God, that assist! I mean, Dan, say what you want about Nunez's finishing, say what you want about his ability in front of goals at times. You cannot question his determination for us to press and win the ball back. I mean, to start off with that tackle, that was absolutely superb tackle that Van Dijk himself would have been proud of.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I just want to go back on about 15 seconds before that when I was screaming at the TV, going, pass the ball, when the pass was there on and it didn't go through, and I could have put my foot through the screen, to be totally honest with you. But then, of course, he gets up there and does what he's so good at. And he just goes and he somehow gets that tackle and wins it back. They're all looking for a foul. I think I was a number 9, made a tackle as good as that one, and he gets the ball and then he plays it and it's perfect. And Szoboszlai puts it away. But that's what Nunez brings to you. And this is something which he is going to be frustrating. I do find at times he's very frustrating, but sometimes some of the situations that frustrate you come from only things that he could do. He could only make the runs. He could only get himself in that situation because none of our other players were able to do that. Like we said, Gakpo was pretty much anonymous, but within 20 minutes of him playing, he's got himself an assist. He's charging down the goalkeeper, causing him to put it out for a throw. It's just those things, and he offers a different question to opposition players. He is very difficult to play against. He got an awful lot of grief for the fact is that he missed this chance against Fulham last week where he hit the bar. Yeah, but it's only Nunez's pace that gets him into that situation in the first place. No one's as fast as he is. The fact that it even happened, so I can't blame him for making it happen, and then it maybe not coming off because only he's able to do that. And then for the last 2 goals that we scored, the header to Salah, he doesn't get the assist. Salah gets it, but it's equally as important in that move. And then we obviously go on to the fact that he was still fighting for that ball when it comes to the crossover to Costas. Again, doesn't get the assist, but it's equally as important to cause that goal. So I think he's fantastic. I still think there's such a player in there. He just still needs to work on something. He's a much better player than he was last season. Not as raw, but he's still very raw. Hopefully against the team, just going back to Salah, Salah's really struggled because he's come up against 2 teams who really like to sit deep, and there's just not much space for him to get in there. There's no space in behind. Crystal Palace potentially could offer something slightly different. They may be a little bit more forward thinking. I saw that Tyrell Mitchell was injured. Their left back. It could potentially be Nathaniel Klein at the weekend, depending on that injury situation. Of course, not wishing hope, on injury on any player, but it could be that game is somewhere where he's going to be up against someone who might not have the pace, might not have the legs to keep up with him for the full game. And as you say, we could see goal number 200. But my theory is he's waiting to score against his favourite team on the 17th. And that'll be Manchester United at Anfield, so he could whip his shirt off and we could all get our bet on and get that 28-1 in. So that's my theory anyway. He's just doing it on purpose. He just fancies getting his 200 against Man United.
I hope so. I mean, I can't really argue with it. I'd be more than happy if that's the way things went, so you might be absolutely spot on. Aaron, I want to stick on the Nunez thing for a second. Before we touch on Dominic Szoboszlai's actual goal and before we leave, just in a few words, how are you feeling about Nunez at the moment? Are you still in this whole stick with him? You're really happy with what he does kind of camp, or are you starting to get a little bit frustrated with the fact that he's not finishing his chances when they fall to him?
Yeah, I'm completely I love him to bits, and I 100% think we need to stick with him. I think anybody that doesn't it's nonsense, to be honest, because very rarely does a striker come in and do what look what Haaland's done, right? That's a complete anomaly. Nunez's numbers, which look ultimately he as a striker will be judged off numbers. he's about 1 in 3 for us, which for a young striker is well above, what most people around his age are doing. So I think if you look at the bigger picture, he's done completely fine. Now, obviously, we know how much he offers us everything else apart from the goals, and his assist numbers as well are quite good. So I think because he has the high-profile misses, and to be honest, I don't think any of them have been complete howlers other than the Luton one. I think the one tonight he should score, but if he has scored 10 this season and he doesn't score that, I don't think it's really spoken about. I think it's because he's had a couple, in a couple of weeks, and he had so many last season. It's kind of scrutinized a lot worse than it would be for most strikers. But look, I think the criticism, I think we need to just block it. And to be fair, I think most people on here it kind of do brush it off as a lot of nonsense. People go way over the top with it. He can't score, he's terrible. And I actually seen someone the other day, I couldn't believe it was a real tweet. I had to put him on blast on Twitter saying he's the worst striker we've signed. I think that guy said in his lifetime. And he was a couple of years younger than me, so he would have been at least early 20s. And I was kind of thinking, well, hold on a minute, I thought it must be a joke.
I've just had about 10 pop in my head, worse than Nunez.
The dark days of Andre Voronin.
I'd love to follow too. Somebody replied with a list, and I had Shuff, Voronin, and Gog. A lot of those names that we're all thinking of.
And
Benteke,
Iago Aspa,
Mario Balotelli.
Ricky Lambert.
But this tweet had.
Yeah, you can't. You can't defend that.
I love Ricky Lambert. I will not have a bad word said about him.
You don't watch his podcast, He's gone, Annie. He's with Leticia now.
I just thought that tweet had a couple of hundred likes, and I was like, that is the narrative that's around sort of Liverpool spaces. And look, we know it's ridiculous. He's far from the worst striker we've had in the last 10 years or going back. We know that, but it does kind of play into the media a little bit, and it does trickle down, not to that extent, but to the mainstream media and stuff. And I think us inside the club know he's an amazing player. And look, is he going to be our Salah number provider going forward? Possibly not, but I'd be happy to say he's going to be a player for Liverpool for a long, long time. Depending who we get on either side of him, I think we've got a gem. I really do.
I don't have a Lambert jersey. I wish I did. I love Ricky Lambert. I won't lie to you. Best penalty taker in history, I'll have you know.
That's why he gets on with Leticia so well.
Well, he's...
Milner's joining him next, isn't he?
Oh, no, please don't.
When he retires, they'll have a podcast together. They don't consent.
Stephen Cole.
They can just sit there and they can talk about their favourite tea brands. I'd be up for watching that. I genuinely would be up for watching that.
4 hours of it.
What have the government put in the tea?
I'll put the last bit to you. We've talked about the Nunez assist, but we'll touch on the Dominic Szoboszlai finish just before we shoot. It was a superb touch to get it into the right position. What's your thoughts on the goal as a whole? Szoboszlai's really stepped up since we signed him. Just how impressed were you with the finish? And do you think he just... It came out of nowhere, let's put it that way. How do you think he handled the pressure of that situation?
I think he did well, and this is sort of where he sort of comes into his own. If you sort of look at him for Hungary, all those times, he might not be where sort of McAllister or Henderson was sort of a 90-minute player where they're on the ball all the time. They get all these passes. Szoboszlai is the type of guy where you go, get him the ball in the position and he'll make something happen. He might not always be involved, but sometimes, I know I did think the other day he took too many sort of pot shots, but sometimes they'll bounce out. Would maybe like to see him dribble a bit more, but I do think he's just such a skilled player. We're very sort of lucky to have him. You just want him to sort of take on the persona and maybe take games by the scruff of the neck a bit more. But maybe that sort of Klopp is telling him maybe to be more advanced. You don't know. He's sort of, I would say, normally the most attacking of the three midfielders. So I just don't know. I'm just sort of interested to see where we go, and as we sort of get better and dominate the ball more, when we sort of get back to like 58, 60% possession a game, sort of where he finds himself on the pitch. Because he also could be an option sort of to cover for Salah when he goes. He's played on the wing for Leipzig and for country. So maybe even then, maybe he might be sort of a revelation there. So you just don't know. But I'll be very interested to see how he does going forwards.
He played against Bournemouth in that position in the League Cup, so he can do it. And he played there for Leipzig, as you mentioned. So, and we do need someone to cover for Salah. So if Klopp's going to give it a go, then absolutely fine. Now, we are going to shoot in a second, guys. Just before we do, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're about 160 away from 10,000, which would be absolutely incredible. So everyone needs to hit the like and subscribe buttons and repost and share this video. It really, really does help out. Anything you can do to support the channel is really appreciated. Now, in 2 words, I want to go around to each of you. I want to know who your man of the match was, not the man of the watch, man of the match, and how would you rate the team's performance out of 10? Dan, I'll go to you first.
Virgil van Dijk, and I would say we were about a 6 out of 10. It was, but sometimes you need a 6 out of 10. Sometimes you need a 6 out of 10 performance against a team who ultimately are not there to kind of let us play our style of football. And it was a big test. We got through it, and that's what matters. We've beaten a promoted team away from home. That's so important. And we broke that hoodoo. And it's over. It's done. We can look forward to playing them at Anfield, and hopefully that being a much easier return fixture. 3 points away from home onto Crystal Palace.
Yeah. And who is your man of the match?
Virgil van Dijk. He has to be for that how solid he was. Not just the goal, but also that he was stepped up and took what we needed, took his opportunity, and defensively he was fantastic.
Aaron, man of the match and rating out of 10 for the team. Yeah, I'll say Virgil van Dijk as well, just because he got the goal and was so solid at the back. If somebody else had scored, and then maybe you could have given it to somebody else. But I think just the combination of that is an all-round captain's performance. So yeah, give it to Virgil van Dijk. But I'd say I give it about a 7 out of 10 tonight. I think the main kind of thing I'm happy about is last season we don't get that result, and that's the progress we've made. I think that should be the measuring stick for now. Now I know last season was a really bad low, but these are the games where we weren't only dropping points last year, we were losing these games and losing some of them badly. So to get through this game, not playing the best, but with a relatively comfortable 3 points is, it's perfect. We'll take this every week till the end of the season if we need to.
100%. And Carter, man of the match, and the team's rating out of 10?
I'd say 6 out of 10. I think, as they sort of said, we were all right, but it wasn't anything sort of special. We sort of rode the game out well. But I would say for my man of the match, I go Trent. I think he gave us enough opportunities to win the game. Like, no matter what, I know Van Dijk played well, but it's Sheffield, it's Cameron Archer and James McAtee. Like, Trent was the one who sort of gave us 3 good opportunities to win the game. So I think I'd have to go with Trent.
I agree, and I'm going to give us a 6 out of 10. And I think Trent as well, man of the match. Mentality monsters are back. They really, really are. And we are going to shoot, guys. It's been over the hour mark, so thank you very, very much for watching. Thank you, Dan, Aaron, and Carter for joining on. Do remember to tune into the channel every single day, 7:30 p.m. UK time for the daily streams. We're doing a post-match one tonight, hence why it's a bit later. There's also a 2 a.m. UK time stream for the American audience. Check out, there's a lot of plugs, by the way, I'm sorry. Check out the latest podcast with myself and Damon. There's going to be a new one coming out soon, and we've got a really, really big guest coming onto it who's actually been on Sky Sports, so that's really exciting. And also, if anyone wants to tweet Ricky Lambert and try and get him to appear on it, you feel free. Tag him, do whatever you have to do. Get him on, and I'll talk about government conspiracies with him. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. We've just beat Sheffield United, on to Crystal Palace for a 12:30 kickoff. Can't wait for that. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next